The following program is intended for mature audiences.
TBS, America's #1 independent television network, presents the following sports exclusive.
You're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.
And check out every episode of the show at basicallysports.tumblr.com.
Now here's your hosts, Zach,
Greg, Mike.
And you're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Birthday anyway, Zach.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know, Zach, you turned 30, yesterday?
Yesterday, yeah.
Do you realize that you've been doing this show for just a little less than a third of your life?
Isn't that weird?
Mike's been doing it for 25% of his, and I'm too old, and there's too many years involved for me to figure out what portion of my life it takes up, but I think a seventh, but I'm not sure. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's...
You were, 22 when we started? Yeah.
Yeah, we've been doing it for 8 years, and yeah.
Wow. I don't know that we've said anything of any particular importance in those 8 years. Maybe. Maybe not.
I mean, we've entertained a handful of the internet.
There's 7 or 8 people out there that get a kick out of it besides us. So that's pretty good.
I mean, trying to think. There was that one year where the NFC South was just so bad that your Bucks prediction was technically correct.
Yeah, that was pretty good. We can't forget the lounge reports. Those were all, one of them was really good. The other one was an utter disaster, but whatever.
And remember, I like just the more like radio experiment.
I was just going to bring that up.
That's always something that sticks out to me. Is like, well, what have you guys done? And over the time of the podcast, it's like, well, we tried this one thing once, and
I don't even know if we have those episodes. I think we do, but
I don't know.
I don't think we have all of them, but that was some tough. Those promos we had to read were just horrible. And the shows around us were awful. Just awful. Yeah. They were just vile and I don't know.
I remember that there was one commercial that Andy would always play during breaks, and it took me like 3 weeks to figure out what that music was because it sounds so familiar. And then I was like, that's the Final Fantasy theme.
Throwing copyright law to the wind, as we always do.
Well, I mean, in order for, people would actually have to be listening for it to be caught, so.
Right. I always loved their stats that they sent us because we either had 12 listeners or 7 million, and there was no in between. It was just the craziest thing. I mean, I remember the first time I saw it said like 1.1 million listeners. I'm like, there is absolutely no way. That's just not going to work for me.
Maybe
that puts us up there with like Bill Simmons and people like that, which would be great. We'd all be rich.
Yeah, right. We'd be getting bought by Spotify.
I feel like if 1 million people were listening to us, we would have seen some sort of money from that.
Not only that, but I have to think when we were doing the call-in segments at the end of the show, we would have gotten 1 or 2 calls probably if 1 million people were listening. Well, they say 1% of the audience calls. So what would that be? Like 10,000? Yeah. Not 10,000 calls, but that there's 10,000 people out there. You think one of them would pick up the phone?
Well, no, nope. 10% of a million, that'd be 100,000 people.
1%. 1%.
Oh, 1%. Yeah.
Anyway, so speaking of Bill Simmons, maybe that's a good stepping off point here. The Ringer, after much rumors and talk, has been bought by Spotify.
Oh.
So I don't know what that's going to mean.
Apparently not much at all.
Yeah, that's what they always say.
Well, Spotify's bought a couple other podcast companies at this point. And it's not like they haven't made any of that content Spotify exclusive, but this is the first time that they've done something where they've acquired something that also has a print arm to it. But I would imagine that Spotify wouldn't have anything much to do with the print side of what they're doing.
I know that the writers were pretty nervous when all the rumors were going around.
Right.
What the hell's going on here?
Partially because they weren't being involved in any of it, and they set up a union like last year.
Right.
And so for this stuff to be happening not too long after they make the union, and for the union to not like be involved with or at least be in the know of what was going on, that's what they were kind of worried about, and no, I don't think there's been anything put out there of exactly what's happening.
What Spotify? I think was it the Ringer announced that everything was staying exactly the same. And,
right, that's what the Ringer says. But
I can't imagine. I mean, look, why I don't. Believe me, and I don't know how this applies to like the actual like TV and radio business, but I have to think there's a little bit of the stupidity would flow over. And I have seen so many times they go, nothing's going to change from one side, and then the other side goes, no, nothing's going to change except this, and they ruin everything. So We'll see. But I wonder, did we ever get an actual amount? Because I know he was asking like $200 million for it, which if he got that, good for him, man.
I don't know. I'm gonna look it up. But yeah, it's the Ringer has kind of expanded into this just such a big thing that I think it would be just against their best interest to do anything to it.
Right.
And whether it is, maybe it is Spotify just buying it for the podcast network, but even that alone has been just such a huge thing. Like, yes, the writing and stuff is all there, but there are plenty of people that listen to a wide variety of Ringer shows and don't ever look at the website. Like, I used to read the Ringer when I had more time to read articles and stuff like that. But I have maybe like 5 Ringer podcasts like that I listen to.
Yeah, me
on a regular
too.
basis. So, and even though there's a few that I don't subscribe to, but I just check in with like once every 2 months and see if there's a new episode that I want to listen to. Like the Rewatchables is one that I do that with.
Yeah, if it's a movie I've seen and I love that show. But there are times where it's like I don't even know what the movie is you're talking about. But yeah, the things I read on the actual website are like the winners and losers of the NFL week. I get a kick out of that, and that kind of stuff. But right now, I mean, I went there today and it is all basketball except for a couple of articles about the Oscars. And I'm like, I don't need any of that. But anyway, it should be interesting to see how it plays out. I mean, it's, Bill Simmons going from a guy that had a little, was it like an AOL type thing on
AOL fan site
on the Boston page of AOL to selling his personal website. Well, not personal, but a website that he developed for, maybe $200 million. Not bad.
Well, and not even that. I mean, you think of the whole ride between, just his rise at ESPN to the making of Grantland to signing that HBO 30 for 30 deal and all that stuff that like he made 30 for 30 and that got left behind at ESPN.
Yeah.
And they're still making those. I'm sure he doesn't see any money from that now, but that's still something that's in his legacy, as well as he's working on all these HBO documentaries, and it is quite, like you said, quite the rise. He's, for a guy that again was just a sports columnist, it's not like Tony Kornheiser, is out there making, with $100 million deals. He's still just a sports columnist on ESPN.
I can't think of the last time Bill Simmons actually wrote an article for the Ringer. It's been a very, very long time.
I mean, hell, it's such a joke, him as a writer now, that he's doing the Book of Basketball as a podcast series.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, why write a book when you can speak it, I guess?
That's funny because a lot of times I will see people that succeed in a field and I go, man, you've got it made. Why do you still do this? But they keep doing it. But he's not. He was like, you know what? I don't have to write anymore. I'm not going to. And I'm like, that's what I would have done. I'm like, I'm not writing shit. I'm going to just say it and record it. It's a lot faster. I don't have to type. I don't have to worry about it. There's no editing, blah, blah, blah.
And
anyway.
And there's more money to be made doing these podcasts for him than the writing at this point, I would assume.
I saw speaking of podcasts, and boy, this is going to make us feel good. Like some of the top earners, like the Joe Rogan podcast, he's making $30 million a year off that show. I'm like, we'd be happy with $30 a year, I think. But
Rogan, do you know what Rogan's like numbers are?
They're huge. I've heard
actual listeners.
I've heard as many as like you can only go by downloads because you don't know if they're actually listening or not. But it's something like 19 million a month downloads. Yeah. So that's what, let's say 20 a month, just to round it up. That's like, that's a lot. 240 million downloads a year, roughly.
Yeah.
I think, right?
We've never been too concerned with that for ourselves, so it's hard to even know, I guess.
At our peak, which, we've fallen off a little over the years, but that's going to happen because just, the novelty wears off and you end up with what your core audience is after that. But at our peak, we were probably anywhere between 500 and 1,000 a week, which is pretty good for 3 guys or 4, whatever we were at the time, that made zero effort to get listeners. We put a thread on the board and said, here we are.
Right.
But,
well, that's what I mean. Like at any point, if we, at one of those peaks, we could have said, hey, let's see if we can get some advertisers or try to share it more or, something like that. But
we did. We went to more like radio. And
well, yes, in hindsight, maybe not the best decision when it came to doing that. But
how did we find that? Was that my fault?
No, it was.
Was that Andy?
No, JKR Devil on the boards. He had a show there. Remember?
Oh, Kinger. Yeah. Okay, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Okay. Anyway,
and then we looked into that and said, "Hey, this looks interesting." Again, in hindsight, there's 100 more ways that we could have done this a cleaner way, let's say, and then maybe gotten more viewers. But it doesn't matter. I think, and plus we all had our own regular jobs that we were more concerned with anyway.
Right. Yeah. So, but anyway, well, let's move on to the big news of the week, fellas. We had week 1. I was going to say the National Football League. That would be incorrect.
The Extreme Football League.
The XFL. It's Overreaction Monday in XFL football.
FL.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys hear the commentary for the opening game, the DC Seattle game?
Yeah.
They're going to be playing this tape in 100 years.
Oh, I don't know about that.
From the bits I was able to, I was able to watch a decent amount of it, but obviously I was busy in Vegas for the most of the weekend. But I sat down and watched at least half of the Dallas game on Sunday, and I saw the second half and first quarter of the second half of this DC Seattle game, and it looked pretty entertaining at the end,
What's
it looks fun. It's a fun alternative for right now.
What do you guys think of the quality of the play? I likened it to watching second and third stringers in an NFL preseason game. And that wasn't meant as a knock. That's just about what it reminded me of. And then somebody else brought up a good, well-played MAC game. I've seen Conference USA. McCarthy from the board said it was more like watching Purdue play Illinois. What did you guys think of the quality of it? I mean, it wasn't terrible by any stretch.
As someone who watched a fair bit of AAF football last year, honestly, the quality seems about on par.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
There were times where the XFL looked like it was a bit tighter than the AAF, but then there were other times where, to be perfectly honest, the XFL this past weekend looked pretty slapdash. Yeah. So it's a case where, I think it evens out. It's about at the AAF level, which I would say is probably a smidge below the CFL.
Okay.
The thing there is that if this league survives, and I said this about the AAF, of course the AAF didn't survive, but it's still the sentiment still holds true now for the XFL, which is that if it can survive, then the play's just going to get tighter as the teams gel.
Well, and here's the thing that I think, comparing the two leagues as of right this second, it seems like the XFL has more stability to it, if only based on the TV contracts it has.
Yes.
The fact that you got the XFL on not just Fox Sports, but Big Fox, and not just ESPN, but ABC. The AAF, did it actually get to regular CBS at any point?
Yes.
Just on CBS Sports.
It did make it to CBS. That's where I first saw it, but I don't think it had. It only had the one network, and I don't with this. They're going to be on main networks all season, I'm pretty sure.
Every single game is televised.
And with the AAF, I think that you would get a CBS game, but then like I forget how many teams there were, but the other ones would play like on CBS Sports and this and that. So it wasn't quite as good. I mean, it was a good contract for that league, but compared to the XFL contract, it wasn't as good. No.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I think the ratings are pretty good if I read correctly that they weren't bad. Like one of the games got like 3.5 million viewers. I forget which one, but it was, I didn't think it was terrible. It was, I was glad to see some of the, maybe I wasn't glad. I'm not sure, but some of the lunacy from the first time around was gone, and that was nice. What did you guys think of the new, the quote unquote innovations that they've made in the XFL?
Honestly, the kickoff innovation, I didn't quite care for it. Like, I'm of the opinion. Honestly, I think the AAF did it better by just getting rid of kickoffs.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, okay, with the way that, player strength and conditioning has only improved as the years go on, obviously that's going to hold true for kickers. And, I think that, we're at the point now where any decent kicker can kick the ball out of the end zone on a kickoff.
Right.
And so I think we're at a point now where we're probably just better off eliminating kickoffs from the game. And I thought that was one of the things that the AAF did, which I really liked, which was it kind of just streamlined it. They got rid of the kickoff, and it kind of streamlined the game a bit.
The kickoffs from, I guess there was a player that got asked, after the game, one of the games about it. I forget exactly who, but I heard it on a different podcast today. That essentially they said it was like just an extended running play, than anything else. And there's not as many holes that open up in that way as there is on a regular kickoff. So in terms of it's certainly safer than a regular kickoff, but in terms of bringing any extra excitement to the game, I don't know if it really does that. But again, like you kind of said too, Mike, the whole thing is still so kind of thrown together in some ways that it's something like that is like these coaches may have had 2 weeks to actually put something together with that format. So who knows if it could develop into something more interesting, at least that certain aspect of it. I'm
just of the opinion that we're getting to the point where at least at, top tier college level, at the NFL level most certainly, and probably even at the XFL level, we are getting to the point where the kickoff is just going to become something that's going to be a relic that more often than not is just going to be a formality because it's going to be kicked into the end zone or out of the end zone. And I think that just admitting that and just getting rid of the kickoffs entirely is probably just going to save everyone a lot of time.
Yeah.
So the kickoff innovations in the XFL are certainly interesting, and I agree with you, Zach, that in time as coaches get used to dealing with this sort of play, they might be able to put something together that takes advantage of the differences. But I don't know, it didn't really change much for me. I saw, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, that's neat, but I don't think it actually added to it. Didn't make the kickoffs any more exciting than they are in the NFL. I don't think it added much.
I thought it made them worse, actually.
Yeah, because there wasn't any lead up. It's just kind of there's a bunch of guys standing around waiting for the ball to get caught, and then you don't build up enough speed or have any time to set anything up. You just kind of have to hope that the guys in front of you block the guys in front of them, and you can run. But it just seemed like everybody was more or less starting in the same spot all the time. It wasn't anything about it. The extra points system, once we put it into practice, I don't know if we should be allowing coaches to have to do this much math.
Yes.
Like, I like the idea of having like a 3-point extra point to like spice up the game, but like, I don't know. Coaches have hard enough time deciding when to go for 2 points in the NFL, let alone 3. So
I would like to see, I get that they want to try to eliminate as much kicking as possible, but I think that I like the system as it stands, but I also think they should be allowed the option to kick an extra point from the same, like a further distance like the NFL does. I think that would add to it because there were a lot of missed extra points over the weekend, a lot. And it ended up with some really weird scores, which, I mean, that doesn't really matter at the end of the day, but you should give them the opportunity to take the easy one if they want. Well, it's not really going to be that easy as they say they kick it from the 20, but at least, leave the kicking part of it still in there. But I do like if you're down late and you score a touchdown, say you're down 10, you can score 6 there and then 3 more if you decide to go for 3, and you can cut a 10-point lead to 1 and 2 plays basically. So that's kind of cool. But I do think they should at least allow some sort of a kicked extra point because it takes away some of the excitement too when it's always going to be basically going for 2, even though it's only 1 at first and then 2 as they back up and 3 as they go to the 10. But I'd like to have the decision still be there, and it's just not now, which I think would really help a little bit with the game itself if they would leave the decision to do the 1, 2, or 3 or kick, depending on what they think is easiest. So I'd like to see that.
Yeah, what'd you think of the crowds that were able to show up for some of these things?
It's interesting. I think the DC Defenders actually got it right by playing in an MLS stadium.
Yeah,
that was my thought too.
Yep.
Because you look at New York playing in MetLife, and it's just like, that's not
like if you look at actually the attendance across all 4 home games, they actually were pretty steady. Again, comparing it to the AAF because they basically tried to do the same thing last year. Yeah. Each had 8 teams, each had 4 home games week 1. The AAF had 2 that drew over 20,000, which beat out what any XFL team did. But then they also had 2 that just barely outdrew 10,000. So the fact that the XFL seems to have consistently drawn around 17,000 and change across the board is a good sign. It means that they've got a pretty solid base.
Right. They could fill a Charger home game is what you're saying. Yeah. But
no, yeah, but at the same time it's like you said, Zach, like 17,000 in a MLS stadium is a really fun and intimate atmosphere.
Yes.
17,000 at MetLife is like a morgue.
I think the 17,000 at MetLife, and I think the one that was weird, like the Dallas one where they're playing in the Rangers baseball stadium, that's where it kind of looks even worse to a degree because it's like I'm going to be looking at the stands more than I am at the football stadium just because it looks weird and it keeps catching my eye.
Yeah.
And then you're not putting I think the ballpark in Arlington holds
40-some thousand. Yeah, about 45, yeah.
So you're half filling a baseball stadium?
Well, not only that, but most of those seats aren't designed for football. So
right.
You've got to find
who knows how they're angled.
Right.
Yeah.
I saw a thing on Twitter today. I think it was this thing called NFL memes, and it asked if the Chargers were in the XFL, where would they rank in attendance? That was pretty funny. So.
I saw one where it was like the XFL has figured out how to consistently get 17,000 fans to show up for football games. The Chargers' response is, and it was just a clip of Stephen A. Smith going, "How do you do that?"
Well, what's funny is that was the first time I'd ever watched a football game in a soccer stadium where the fans were actually rooting for the home team.
I mean,
I thought that was pretty interesting.
Well, I mean, are the LA Wildcats playing at home next week? Because
they are home opener this Saturday.
Are they playing at the Rec Center or are they playing at the Coliseum?
Oh, they're playing at the Rec Center.
Oh, that'll be good.
So it's
this will really be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Can the LA Wildcats outdraw the LA Chargers in the rec center?
Well, I mean, to be fair, the Chargers did fill up the game more often than not.
Yes.
So if they didn't sell out, it was like 23,000. So it's still more than what.
Okay. Yeah, can the LA Wildcats draw more home fans?
Right. Can they make a home game?
Can
they have a home? Can they have a home game at the rec center? That's the question.
Yes.
Because the Chargers have never had that. Ever. And here's what I think, too. If the LA Wildcats, A, have a home game at the rec center, and B, outdraw the Chargers, Roger Goodell has to immediately say, okay, we're moving you back to San Diego right now. Because this is just that this is proven that it's not going to work.
Not only that, no. Not only that, but Dean Spanos needs to be fired into the sun.
Yes. Well, that needs to happen either way.
My one thing with any sort of optimism for what the LA Wildcats attendance is going to be, I think that they made a major error doing this at the Galaxy Stadium instead of at LAFC's downtown. Next to the Coliseum and all that, because it's. If I was going to downtown LA, I think I might be more if the game's going to be there, I'd be more enticed to go down there to watch them than I would be to drive out to the middle of Carson. and navigate my way through a couple office parks to find the rec center. It's just, I don't know.
Well, plus you better hope there's not a shuffleboard tournament going on the same day or something like that, because then it could really get crowded.
And it's a battle of two winless teams. So one team will get the first win.
Who are they playing again?
The Dallas Renegades.
Oh, you got that LA-Dallas rivalry going.
Hey, I just want to point out that after much research and deliberation on my part, I clicked a button on Twitter, and the team that came up for me was the Houston Roughnecks. So that's my team. And they kicked ass over the weekend.
So
the discount broke ass Oilers, the Walmart Oilers.
So the Roughnecks are interesting from a uniform perspective because their logo is basically the discount Oilers.
Yeah.
But their uniforms are basically someone's Patriots concept from 5 years ago from the concept section.
Yeah. That helmet, after seeing it in person, that helmet is such a blatant ripoff of the
Oilers.
Of the Oilers from, I don't remember what era they wore the silver helmets, right before they went to white, I think.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, why didn't you just go all the way?
McCarthy had the best take on the Roughnecks uniforms. He's like, the Roughnecks answered the question, what would the Patriots look like with red jerseys? The answer is, meh. But interesting. What I found hilarious about just like how I found this hilarious, and I'm not saying it in like a demeaning sort of way, because like I get it, and I have a feeling that I could very much be suckered into it too. But like I found it hilarious watching the Houston LA game. It was being played in Houston, and the Houston fans for this team that they have never seen play before in this league that is like playing its first slate of games.
Yeah.
These Houston fans are chanting BLA, BLA. Like this is some kind of like Boston Celtics, Los Angeles Lakers-esque rivalry. It's like
that's that's one of those things that extends across sports. I think every team in Texas in every sport has something against the LA team in every other sport.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know the Mavericks in the 80s lost to the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. I don't know how many times.
The Mavericks hate the Lakers. The Spurs hate the Lakers. The Rockets hate the Lakers. The Houston Astros, play the Dodgers. They play in the division with the Angels. Same with the Rangers.
They cheat to beat the Dodgers.
I know that the Dallas Stars have had plenty of run-ins with the Ducks and Kings over the years. So it's, yeah.
But yeah, it's so I just found that funny. I have to say, though,
it was kind of funny how much all these the two games that I was able to watch the most of on Saturday was the DC game and the Houston game, where the fans looked generally like they were trying to give a damn about what was going on.
DC seems to be, I think, like the standout market so far in terms of fan response.
Well, they've been waiting for professional football for a very long time now.
You imagine all those poor Redskins fans. They finally now have a team. Like, granted, it's like XFL minor league football, but they look good. They look like they're run competently. They're run better than the Redskins. We know that.
There was every time they cut to the crowd. I know they gave out those big foam shields,
which, by the way, looked fun as crap. Like,
right, but beyond that, like, it looked like there was a lot of merch already bought and being worn in the stands. Like, people were at least giving it their best college try at being a fan.
So this is an XFL tidbit. They have a deal with Dick's Sporting Goods to sell gear. And I know this because today after work, I stopped by a Dick's to buy a Tampa Bay Vipers sweatshirt.
Hey! All right. Did you get one?
Yes, I did. It's like the most boring one. I find the Vipers identity to be really bad, so I just got – it's a gray like quarter zip that just has the Vipers logo on the breast and then an XFL logo on one of the sleeves. So it's pretty low key, but
I gotta say the Vipers didn't look good at all.
No,
like beyond just the uniforms look like real bad. They look pretty bad.
Well, uniform-wise, that's their best look because when they're going to be playing at home, they're going to be playing in head-to-toe neon green.
I know.
But the reason I bring it up is because when I was paying for the sweatshirt, the cashier goes, a lot of the Viper stuff's been moving lately.
Really?
So yeah. People seem interested in merch. Again, like, I think it's gonna be interesting because I have tentative plans to actually go to the Vipers home opener in week 3. But it's gonna be played at Ray J, which is a NFL size stadium like MetLife.
Yeah.
So I have the feeling like even if they do draw decently, it's gonna be one of those things where it's gonna not be a necessarily fun experience. Because,
Well, it might be because it won't be crowded. You'll be able to sit wherever you want. That may be kind of cool.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm curious to see what they do with the pirate ship. Do they put a giant snake head over the skull on the pirate ship? But I'm with you, Zach. I was kind of interested in how fun a lot of the fan shots were, especially in the DC game. The DC fans seemed like they were really having a good time.
Zach, the Wildcats have made a coaching change already.
Trust me, I saw this. I wanted to bring it up.
Breaking XFL news!
Damn, man. Well, I thought we were going to overreact for Pete's sake.
They fired their defensive coordinator after the first week.
Which perhaps seems, you talk about overreaction.
Right. I mean, Overreaction Monday on a scale unprecedented.
Well, I was going to say,
not even the Cleveland Browns have hit the reset button that quickly.
So I thought we were supposed to be the ones that overreacted, not the actual teams. What the hell's going on here?
Yes, the Wildcats let up the most points in XFL history on.
Are we counting the first run of the XFL?
No, it's not canon. It's like that stuff they threw away from Star Wars.
Oh, okay. It's
XFL 1.0 the EU, and this is after the Disney purchase.
Okay.
Right.
They let up 37 points at Houston.
Because I want to say, speaking of LA, the fact that the LA Extreme aren't in this league to defend their title means that the whole legitimacy is suspect.
Well, we're going to pull an Ottawa Senators and raise an Extreme banner in
the rec center
too. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the Wildcats, yes, they gave up the most points in XFL history, but they've also scored the 5th most points in XFL history. So I don't know what you do in a situation like that.
I just find it hilarious after one game you fire the defensive coordinator. Like, maybe, I don't know.
It was
season.
Let me pull up the actual press release they made.
Pepper Johnson, former Brown Giant and Ohio State alum, got fired. Well, all right.
How do you fire a guy with the name Pepper?
I don't know, but they did.
I want that guy on my staff.
Well, he's available.
Okay, here we go. So they're just taking this so seriously. Making modifications to the coaching staff. No replacement has been named. Pepper Johnson has been relieved as the team.
So they fired him and they didn't have an idea of who they were going to replace him with?
God, they are the Cleveland Browns.
We recognize that there are issues we need to address for the 2020 season. While these decisions are difficult, we've given this significant thought. We're here to put the best possible product on the field for our fans. We thank Pepper for his contributions to the Wildcats, and we look forward to their home opener this week.
His contributions? He was there for like 3 weeks. What are you talking about?
That's what I'm saying. Like, did you hire him?
Made?
Well, in the GM and the head coach are the same guy. Winston Moss. I've never heard of him.
I don't know who that is.
Anyway,
I know the name, but I can't figure out from where. You keep talking. I'll look it up really quick.
Just like so, based on the whole statement, it sounds like you've thought about this for a while. That like you wanted to change him, but so did you hire him? And then like the first week of practice, you're like, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. And then
you can't justify firing him. So
yeah, it's like, oh, like he holds his first meeting and you're like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah. So you have to wait until you lose your first game.
It just seems like
simply because they let up the most points in XFL history. I would like to think.
Winston Moss was a linebacker in the NFL from 87 to 97. He played for Tampa, the Raiders, and the Seahawks. I knew the name was familiar.
He just seems so funny. It's like we realize that we need to make modifications to our coaching staff. It's been 1 week. Maybe give it like 5 weeks.
Well, that's half the season, though, Mike, in the XFL. That's half the season.
And what you saying that are you concerned that the 0-3 start might torpedo playoff ambition?
Well, I am overreacting. Yeah, it's Overreaction Monday. Of course I'm concerned. Their season could be over at this point. They needed to make a move.
Well, and clearly it's a problem because the Nelson Spruce was the first 100-yard receiver in XFL history. So we're moving the ball.
I'm checking all these stats against the original XFL, by the way. I want to see if these are all really firsts.
I mean, I'm sure somebody caught more than 100 yards in the first XFL.
Are you sure? Because that first iteration wasn't great.
I mean, Tommy Maddox was the MVP. He had to be thrown to somebody, right?
God.
Hey, that's Pittsburgh Steelers playoff game winner quarterback.
That is a guy that will hang his whole career on the fact that he beat the Browns in their one playoff appearance.
Yeah, and it was a comeback too.
Yes. Anyway,
I don't want to dunk on the Browns anymore, but come on, Greg. They blew that lead to the
trust me,
MVP.
I watched every second of it, Mike. I saw it happen right in front of me. And the funny thing is, I knew it was going to happen. When they got within, I forget what it was, 14 or something, I said, this game's over. They're going to win. Because I know my Cleveland Browns. Even at that early point, I'm like, they're not going to win this. There's no way. And they didn't. And it's just the way it goes. I knew it in 80s.
Tommy Maddox got a playoff win in the NFL.
Yeah, right, exactly. They should put him on the quarterback jersey just because. But Winston Moss was a defensive quality control assistant for the Seahawks. He was hired by the Saints in 2000 as a defensive assistant quality control, promoted to linebackers coach, hired by the Packers to become their linebacker coach in 2006, promoted to assistant head coach by Mike McCarthy in 2007, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so he's got coaching experience, yes, to answer your question.
So they opened up training camp. The first day of training camp was January 5th. So these teams have been practicing for about a month.
Right.
I mean, I guess you're unhappy with the schemes you see because they did have 2 preseason scrimmages that I've learned.
Oh my God, you guys have got to see this.
I don't know, man. Like it just how in the world do you decide to fire a guy after?
You'll get there in a second. Hold on, here we go.
Are the LA Wildcats the Cleveland Browns of the XFL?
Now I know that.
What?
Again, we were supposed to be the ones overreacting here, not everybody else.
Well, like I said, like not even the Browns have hit a reset button after 1 week.
Yeah, I think the better question might be, are the Cleveland Browns the LA Wildcats of the NFL? I mean, come on, guys. It's been 1 week, and the Browns, they never score 17 points in their opener, so come on. No, they're not. They're fine. You should just relax. But
the Wildcats also cut their defensive captain, Anthony Johnson. Jesus Christ.
They did?
God. Yeah.
I didn't see that announcement.
See, folks,
so they did that, and the other thing that I noticed as I was scrolling through all these old posts on their website, they traded the only like the quarterback on the roster that I had heard of to New York at some point.
So who's? Oh God, I gotta ask if Winston Moss, is Winston doing okay? He seems to be making making a lot of moves.
The starting quarterback so I did know one of the other quarterbacks. They traded, I guess, the backup, I would assume, because the starter was Josh Johnson.
Oh yeah, right. He was with the Cardinals, wasn't he?
Josh Johnson was with a few teams before.
But did he get a playoff start or something a few years back? He was with the Cardinals when Palmer went down. He was one of the guys that had to play, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think he bounced around a little bit. Let me see if I can find it. I'm going to get off this NFL draft diamonds nonsense. Are the Wildcats the Browns? Leave. Get out.
Yeah, well, the headline, I forget where I saw the headline at, but the headline said, does Winston Moss have too much power already? Folks, we told you it would be Overreaction Monday in the XFL, but it's not us doing the overreacting. It's the actual teams. This is beautiful.
It's been 1 week. It's been 1 week, and already there's a power struggle in L.A. That's why Winston Moss fired was it Pepper Johnson?
Pepper Johnson, yeah. God.
Pepper Johnson was perhaps building a power base to someday challenge him for control of the team. And Winston Moss had to stuff that out immediately.
Right away.
Oh, wow. So Josh Johnson, he did play in the NFL for a minute. Now, when you want to talk about journeyman quarterbacks, let's put this guy at the top of the list from now on. Here we go. Josh Johnson was drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Or was he drafted? I
was getting confused. Remember Josh Freeman that played for the Bucs? He was drafted. Yeah.
So Josh Johnson was drafted by the Buccaneers with a 25th pick in the 5th round in 2008. Mm-hmm. So he was with the Bucs for 3 years. Then he was on the practice squad of the 49ers. Then he had a stint with, get this, the Sacramento Mountain Lions. Remember them from the
Arena League?
No. Oh, what were they? The
UFL?
Yeah. It was Dante Culpepper played for that team.
Wasn't that the UFL? The
United Football.
Oh, the Unite, right.
Yeah.
Where everybody had those weird stripes down the middle of everyone's helmets.
Right.
They had the cat claws.
And it was like this weird thing where all the refs wore like Tiger Woods get-ups. It was
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of the refs in the XFL, they wear regular referee outfits, not those.
Yeah, I was surprised. The rumor I heard was that Oliver Luck like ex-nayed the original design. I was like, we've got to have them wear just regular.
Well, yeah, because I don't think they want any kind of association with the old XFL, and putting those guys out there in those clown suits would have been, people would have been like, oh, typical XFL. Real quick on Winston Moss. This is why he got fired from the Packers as a coach, by the way. He tweeted, ponder this. What championship teams have are great leadership, period. It's not the offensive guru trend. It's not the safe trend. Find somebody that is going to hold number 12. That would be Aaron Rodgers for those of you scoring at home. And everybody in this building to a Lombardi standard, period. Hashtag losing sucks. Winston Moss. So there you go. I think we're going to have some fun with this guy this year.
Well,
he's already wheeling and dealing in LA.
He's already staved off the first attempted coup. Let's see how he does the rest of the way here.
He saw Pepper Johnson eyeing his.
So, again, this is Josh Johnson's career. Journeyman to a T. With the Bucs for 3 years. Is on the 49ers practice squad in 2012. Also in 2012, plays for the Sacramento Mountain Lions. Also in 2012, Greg, he played one game with the Cleveland Browns.
Oh, of course.
He did not throw a pass, and he did not run the ball. So I assume he handed it off like twice. Then in 2013, he gets a gig with the Bengals, sticks there for a minute. 49ers in 2014. Then he's on the practice squad in Cincinnati in 2015 and the practice squad with the Jets in 2015. Then he gets signed by the Colts and the Bills, all in 2015. He was with 4 different teams. In 2016, he's the practice squad with the Ravens. Then he gets onto the Giants roster. In 2017, he's with the Texans. In 2018, Raiders practice squad, and then also signs with the Redskins later in 2018. He was on the Detroit Lions roster in 2019, and now he's a proud LA Wildcat.
So 2017, did he start for the Texans in that play? He started a playoff game. Did he play in an important game? Who am I thinking of?
I think you're thinking of Josh Freeman.
No, maybe. I don't know. I could swear that Josh Johnson had, like, somewhere along the way played someone.
Brad Johnson?
No, Brad Johnson won a Super Bowl with the Bucs. And it was better than people give him credit for, by the way. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so this is the XFL so far. We've already had our first major and not to mention, we had a Cardell Jones sighting. We ain't here to play school. We're here to play football. And that's what he's doing.
Cardell Jones sighting.
Yes, sir.
Probably the more overreaction Monday hot takes, probably the fast track after week 1 to be XFL MVP, Cardell Jones. So,
you think?
Yeah.
All right.
Played pretty well.
Well, yeah. I mean, based on week 1, we got to say DC's the best team in the league, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to go with my Houston Roughnecks, the discount Oilers, the broke-ass Walmart Oilers.
Speaking of that, Zach, neither you or I did very well week 1.
Oh, no, I know. I lost money on the XFL this weekend.
You bet on the XFL.
I don't remember. Who did we pick in the games? Do you guys remember? I know I picked Houston in the upset.
I picked everyone based off uniforms. I remember that.
Yeah,
I picked, who was the 9.5 point favorite? Oh, Dallas. I picked the upset in that one too. I remember that.
Which you would have been correct. Well, no, because St. Louis won.
Yeah, it's
just so funny, like, because we were right. Like, well, how the hell do you make odds for something you've never seen before? Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, they do their research and they're supposed to know. And I think everything went like the Vipers were a road favorite. And they lose by 20.
There were sports books in Vegas that had the Vipers as, like, with the best odds to win the XFL championship.
Well, now, see, we're overreacting. It's only week 1.
But after 1 week, they looked like crap against the New York Guardians.
Yeah.
I don't. I honestly, of all the teams I watched, I think Houston and Washington are probably look the best at this point. But next week they could be terrible. We just don't know.
Yeah,
you never know what Winston Moss is up to out there in LA either. I mean, he might just come up with like find the right combination, and there you go.
Right. Well, that's again, like we said, it's one game, so it's kind of like, well, of course the 2 teams that scored 30 points are clearly the best teams in the league. Well, it's like, we'll see what goes on next, but next week is kind of interesting because it just so happened to work out with the schedule that all 4 teams that won are playing another team that won, and all 4 teams that lost are playing another team that lost. So you have the 1-0 New York Guardians on the road in DC at the 1-0 Defenders. Then you have the Vipers going to Seattle to take on the Dragons in a battle of winless teams. The Wildcats host the Renegades in a battle of winless teams. And then in a battle of undefeated, Seattle goes to Houston.
That's Clash of the Titans right there, man.
Battlehawks and Roughnecks. Coming up next on Fox Sports 1.
What did you guys, speaking of the Battlehawks, I thought their helmets didn't look quite as ridiculous on the field as they did in the pictures we saw.
They still look pretty silly.
They still look pretty silly, but they look a little better.
There's too much detail in the decals. I'll tell you who actually has the best helmet, in my opinion, it's New York. I really like New York's helmet. In fact, uniform-wise, I would actually even say New York and DC would have perfect uniforms if they would just wear contrasting pants.
Yep, I agree. I think the defenders would look a whole lot better if they would go with either white or like a gray or something like that. But that all red is too much.
Because the all red's too much. It's all because there's nothing else to offset it. It's just red with dashes of white. So it looks almost like a practice uniform.
By the way, guys, Cardell Jones, 16 of 26 for 235 yards and 2 touchdowns for a quarterback rating of 116.7. Not bad.
Not bad at all.
B. Silvers of the Seattle Dragons was 21 of 40 for 217, 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. All right. Okay.
Yeah, I think I saw both those interceptions when I was actually looking up at the TV. What did you think of the broadcast itself? Because I thought it was kind of interesting. It was interesting interviewing these guys like right as they come off the field. But
okay, so granted, I've never played sports at a professional level, but I have played I have played sports competitively, and maybe this is just me. Maybe I'm just projecting my own, my own preferences, my own personality. But like, I played competitive hockey as a goalie. If I had a bad game, or if I let in a goal and I went to the bench to, have a talk with coach or to grab something to drink, the last thing I'd want is someone sticking a microphone in my face going, you let that goal in, what went wrong?
Yeah, I don't disagree.
To me, I just glare at them. You're like,
didn't they interview a kicker right after he missed the kick?
Yes, they did.
Sure did.
Hey, what went wrong out there? I don't know. Get the hell out of my face.
I missed the kick. Did you not see what happened? I didn't. I'll tell you what I didn't care for was the coach being able to be in the player's head like all the time. I was watching Washington play, and there was a pass play where like Cardell Jones was rolling out and stuff. And you could hear the coach telling him, do this, do this, do this. I'd be like, dude, you've got to shut up and let me do my job. I can't take this. You're in my head constantly. I didn't care for that. I thought that was just a bit much.
I'm not sure how it's going to work. Is like they're basically broadcasting plays. Like you've got the coach, like they've got the coaches mic'd up, and they've got the quarterbacks mic'd up. So now, like, you can hear the coach, make a call. You hear the quarterback make a call, and you see the play. Like, so we've seen every team play now. So does that mean that every team now has access to the calls of every other team?
I don't know. I thought the same thing. I thought when everybody in the whole world can hear you calling the play.
If that's how we're going to do things, then isn't that just what Bill Belichick's been angling for all these years?
Well, I guess the difference is like, yes, you can hear the play being called, but it's not like the other team is in the huddle. So the only thing they can hear is the audibles.
But here's the thing. It doesn't take a genius to go, okay, one person from the staff, or we'll hire a person. Your job is to sit here and record the game off television. And then we will sit back and we'll look. And then, it would be very easy to cheat this system is what I'm saying.
I'm just saying the Patriots have gotten in trouble twice now for basically doing what the XFL has done.
The XFL
as part of the program.
Yeah. I also think it's not high enough stakes to matter.
Yeah.
That's fair.
But here's my thought on broadcasting that stuff. Unless you're a football junkie, all that stuff is gibberish.
It's gibberish if you are a football junkie. Unless you know what each word means in the terminology of that team, you have no idea what they're talking about.
I think people can figure out like what the different numbers or like how a play is called, like the formation, all that stuff. But yeah, like everybody's going to name their play something different. So if you just hear a guy go spider, Y, right, X,
When they used to,
all right.
That old NFL film show on ESPN used to have Joe Montana at the beginning yelling Black 59 Razor. Does anybody know what that means? No.
Okay, so
I would assume black has an L, so left. 59 is an odd number, so that means something. Well, usually a 50 protection is. Oh God, I used to know this because it was part of our plays. But if you know specific things like that, there's a lot of things that are the same across all systems. But
so I've actually got a question in this regard for Zach. As someone who watched Peyton Manning play a lot.
Yes.
What exactly did Omaha mean?
It meant Omaha.
Okay.
I don't think it meant anything.
I think it's probably one of those things that did mean something the first couple times, but then because it became a thing, he would just maybe say it to throw off the defense.
I think he called plays like a catcher calls pitches in baseball, where he's going to throw out a whole bunch of stuff, and only the team knows what we called it in baseball the indicator sign, which like until I do this, everything else is just gibberish. And I think that's what that was like. He would yell Omaha, 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 and then there was like an indicator where if you heard it after he said this or that, then you go, okay, this is what we're doing. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but
yeah. But it's also, again, it means gibberish because you listen to when they do have the quarterbacks mic'd up in the NFL, you can hear them yelling the audibles, and it like the Rams became like a thing where they would yell Barack Obama, Elvis Presley, and like that meant something to the Rams, but it wouldn't mean anything to anybody else, let alone people watching.
No, but you could, I think, going back to Mike's point, you could, though, listen to what they're saying and watch the play they run after they say it and kind of get the point I'm making is it wouldn't be a really tough code to break. But it's not like we're talking about the Enigma system in World War II here with these guys. At least I hope not. But so I guess it'll just be a matter of if you wanted to Bill Belichick it and put the effort in.
Again, I just find it hilarious that the XFL is just blatantly doing what the Patriots got in trouble for doing twice.
But at the same time, guys you do change the calls at a certain point because, of course, any player that's on the field can be like, hey, they said that again. I'm gonna adjust to what it said. So you generally speaking, when you get to like in high school, we could probably get away with it a little bit more than you do at a college or especially at a professional level. So I don't know, but
I think I got to go to Dick's tomorrow and score a broke ass Walmart Oilers T-shirt or something, man.
Well, I guess that's a question, Mike. Do they have everybody available?
No, they just had the local teams.
Yeah.
They just had 10.
So
and why don't we ever get an XFL team? The Cleveland Wildcats could be the Cleveland Browns of the XFL. It would work out beautifully.
It'd be a revenge for taking the Rams.
Right, something like that. Why don't the Rams ever catch any hell in all this? It's always the Ravens. But so I don't know what else to say about this league. It was fun. I think it'll survive the season. I don't think we have to worry about an AAF thing happening here.
Well, apparently they've already sold more tickets than the AAF ever sold, so that's a good sign for stability at least.
I mean, it's nothing. It's not nothing to say that this is the XFL, that it does have that WWE backing, that Vince McMahon backing, because it's no different than say, look at how people make movies nowadays, right? Like if I can attach something to an IP that people have, an intellectual property that people have some sort of relationship with, you're going to be more willing to maybe spend some money on it, right? So I think that's the same thing here. Like nobody knew what the hell an AAF was, and okay, so the Carolina Hurricanes guy bought it, and they wanted to make an app, and like who knew?
And then he sacrificed it. And then he sacrificed it for a playoff run that ended with a sweep anyway. So
yeah. But hey, I can thank the Hurricanes for life because they made me money on Saturday at the Knights game. So good job, Canes. Nice comeback.
How much did you make?
What did I put? I put down a $60 bet, and I made in addition to getting the 60 back, I made 70. So, yeah.
So you made 10 or you made 70 on top of the 60?
I made 130 total. So
okay, well that's not bad.
I put in 60, and then I got the $73 on top of that because they were the underdog. So, and I was very afraid because they were down 4-1 in the third period, and then they made a comeback. And they came back, they went ahead, then Vegas tied it, and then they went into overtime, and Carolina hit the post twice, and I knew what it felt like to be a degenerate gambler because I was sitting there living and dying on every shot of the Carolina goddamn Hurricanes to make $70.
Wow, dude, you might want to check in with Gamblers Anonymous after that. That's rough.
Just be glad that it's not like readily available to me, like, or I'm not willing to like go search out how it's readily available because I know there's like phone apps and whatever that I can do it with, but like I would lose a lot of money doing that.
I fear the day when they open a legal sports book here in Ohio. I really do, and it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time.
Oh, it's same here. Like it's going to happen everywhere.
Because I'm convinced I can make money betting football. I'm positive.
I am afraid of that because I indulge my sports gambler side the one time a year I go to Vegas.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid that if it's just going to be here, that might be a problem.
Well, don't they have a? Do they have the sports book at the Seminole Casino there on Tampa, Mike?
Sportsbook is not legal in Florida.
Okay.
But because of the Supreme Court ruling, it could be if the state ever decided that it would.
And the thing with all that too is like when you're in Vegas, Caesars and MGM sports books have apps. So you don't actually have to go to the window. You can just do it on your phone.
Oh my God.
As long as you're in the state of Nevada, they'll take your bet because they do your location. Like I was able to do it there. I tried this morning and it won't let me do it. So, but that's the other game changer is once you can start. I mean, you can already do it if you look around, but
sure, Yeah, that's I worry about that because I think I know too much about who's going to win and who's going to lose in a football game.
Well, see, you think you do,
right?
That's how they get you.
Yeah,
you think you know everything there is to know about these sports.
Oh,
you listen to Bill Simmons and Cousin Sal every weekend, right?
Yeah,
like they know more about football than probably both of us do, just by the fact of how much they research the stats and all that.
And they still get killed every week.
Yeah. So
yeah, but there's a lot of times where they make really dumb bets. I'm like, what are you guys doing, man?
Yeah.
And but they play parlays and they do teasers and all that. I mean, I would just be betting the straight line.
Parlays is how you make your money. Because I actually, while I was there's a guy I follow on Twitter who he's the odds maker at one of these off the strip casinos, and he posted this ticket. I don't know if it was his or somebody else's, but it was a collection of 8 bets on various NBA games. He bet there was 4 bets, 4 games, 4 winners, and then 4 over under totals.
Oh, well, Jesus Christ, man, that's like you can't like play a parlay with like 8 different results. I mean, the payout's going to be huge, but what are the chances?
Each one of the bets was was $10, so an $80 total, and they all hit, and the winning value on the ticket was $18,000.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
For an $80 bet.
Yeah, but you look at what you've got to have happen for that to happen. Is my point.
But that's what these people ride on,
Yeah, I think the sharps probably are a little smarter than that, but maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, I fear the day that it happens here because I know I had to go to Toledo a few months back. And on the way back, we thought there's a casino right on the way home. We're like, let's stop into the casino. And I wasn't there 20 minutes, and I was ready to like spend every dime I had, just betting on like playing cards and stuff. I said I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
I played. Do you guys know what set poker is? It's like a 3-card game.
Not really. No, I'm not really much of a poker player.
It's basically kind of like blackjack, but not. But basically, you get 3 cards. Okay. You bet like $5 it's like you ante up $5 at least minimum. And then, the dealer will give you 3 cards and the dealer takes 3 cards. And the dealer has to have a queen or better to even stay in the hand. And so you look at your cards. If you got like a pair, you bet another 5. And if you win, you get, I forget what it is, but I played a couple of hands of that and I won like 2 in a row. I was like, oh my God, I can win a whole bunch of money here. And then I thought, nope, just stop and put your $10 in your pocket and go home.
My gambling vices are sportsbook and blackjack.
Oh, blackjack's my game, man. That's my jam, as they say.
That's what I play. Is I do blackjack and I do sportsbook.
Yeah, 'cause I played blackjack while I was there too, and I won 2 hands, and then I got like I think I had a 15, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna write it out, and the dealer, she busted, and then I played again, and I pulled like a 12, which is like the worst thing you can get, and I think I busted out with a 10 or something, but anyway.
I've tried to be better about it, whereas I put in an initial amount for like my bet, and then every time I make any money over that, I put it in my pocket.
Yep, that's what you got to do.
Because otherwise, like I know I will sit there and I will burn through it all.
Yep.
So I had to make sure that I don't lose everything. I try to,
my thing is I need to be mindful of the urge to parlay everything because goddamn.
Yeah, every time there's a couple double numbers there, you're like, oh, should I split these ones?
Never. Oh. You split like 5, 6s maybe. I see so many people split 10s. It's like, what the hell are you doing? That's a winning hand that you just split up. You're an idiot. That's what I think.
But Greg, you don't understand. I could hit 2 aces.
But you're not going to. That's my thing. You're going to get a 3 and a 4.
I could hit another 10.
The odds of you hitting 2 aces are very slim.
You're going to have a dealer sitting there with their up card being the 10. You're going to get 2 10s and split it and get a 3 and a 4, and she's going to roll over and get a 19, and you're done. Yeah, Simple as that.
See, that's the first thing I learned was that I let the dealer make the mistakes. I don't try to be the one that's like if I'm gonna bust, if I'm gonna lose, I'm gonna lose. But I'd rather make the dealer try to bust.
Yep, exactly.
Like, I will always sit low, and that bothers people sometimes. But it's like, no, man, I don't want to take that risk. If the dealer still beats me, dealer beats me. I don't care. But I'll sit there. I'll sit there and wait until you start losing. It's gonna happen.
Well, that's the thing. Win. Yeah, in blackjack, I think you've got like a 51% chance in blackjack, which is probably about the best odds you're ever going to get in a casino.
Yeah.
But you got to be smart. First off, you've got to play conservatively. And I know that's tough for people because they want to just they see those 2 10s and immediately think, if I get 2 more 10s, I win twice as much. Well, sure, but what you've done is you've taken a winning hand and given it away in the hopes of getting 2 winning hands. So that's just stupid. So, you split 5. You don't split 5s either. Yeah. It's 10.
That's why they call it gambling.
But to quote Austin Powers, I like to live dangerously.
Yeah, well, I like to take money home. Like Zach was talking about, when I went into the casino, I only bought $20 in chips because we weren't going to stay very long. And that was enough for 4 hands. And as soon as I won, I got my $20 back. I put that in my pocket and I played on their money the rest of the way. And I still walked out with $10. So, but yeah, the first thing you do, man, when you win your money back is you stick it in your pocket and you leave it alone. I don't care if you got to go lock it in something. Just get it the fuck away. But yeah, I could see myself like just going right down the rabbit hole if they put a sports book at that fucking casino. That's the only place I'd ever be. Be like, live from I forget what it's called, the something or other casino in Toledo. It's basically a sports show. Tonight we're talking XFL on the lines and blah, blah, blah and all that. Speaking of which, let's pick next week's games, guys.
All right, let's do it.
Right, so like I said, we have do
we have lines for this week?
Let's see if I can find some. I didn't look.
That was speaking of the broadcast. I noticed they had the over/under and who was favored in the score box. I thought that was very interesting. The NFL will do that soon enough.
It's simple enough to where it's not intrusive either. Like they're not giving you a whole lot of weird stuff. It's just the line and the over/under, and I think that's fine. I think going forward.
I think the first game I noticed it, I'm like, this game's not going to reach the over, not in a million years.
Yeah.
All right, so get us some odds, Zach, some lines here so we can
pull them up. All right.
I don't know who won. Well, I'll do the. I'll find out. So next week we'll know like where we are as far as the picks go. So we're gonna.
Are we gonna have an XFL pick'em ranking contest?
Yeah, why not? Right. What else are we going to talk about between now and next September? We got about a month and a half till hockey playoffs start. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So we got we get into like the races as they tighten up. But the Blue Jackets, I've been following McCarthy on Twitter. The Blue Jackets are actually in the hunt for the playoffs. Is that right?
They are. Yes.
Wow.
Oh yeah. They've been performing above their heads.
That's what I thought because they lost so much But let me see here. Let me look at the standings real quick. Conference. There we go. Ta-da. Look at my Columbus Blue Jackets up there, 5th in the East. How about that? That's like a miracle, isn't it?
Yeah. All right. So,
Mike, what's going on with I was going to say the Blue Jays. What's the Maple Leafs, dude? Should we save it for next week?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Zach, go ahead.
Well, next week will be good because the other thing that I want to bring up is kind of the talk of the hockey world right now is because Ovechkin's only 2 away from 700, and everybody's getting on the conversation of will he pass Wayne Gretzky eventually? But
no,
he's on pace for 60 goals this season as a 34-year-old.
Really?
Not.
Well, that'll be a good discussion for next week because we won't have to overreact to everything in the XFL next week. We'll just do a quick.
Well, when the Wildcats fire their offensive coordinator again next week,
right? When Winston Moss has another power play, we'll be able to talk about that. Okay, so here we go.
All right, so the first game of the week is on Saturday. Of course, I love that there's 2 games every day. By the way, I think that's my favorite thing about this is that. It's not like I'm going to miss anything.
Right, exactly.
If I can't see something on Saturday, well, it's on Sunday. And if I'm not going to see it Sunday, well, it's on Saturday. Anyway, Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern, ABC, Battle of Undefeateds as the battle for the top of the standings in the East. The New York Guardians taking on the DC Defenders. Right now, the Defenders are 3-point favorites at home over the Guardians.
I'm just going to say it. This is the game of the day because why not? And
yes, it is the game of that day.
It's one of the games of that day. Oh yeah, right. It's game right.
The other game is between 2 0-1 teams. So
okay,
yes.
So I was right then. So yeah, it is in fact the game of the day. I'm going to go with the New York Guardians in the upset here.
Ooh,
yeah. I think
going against your ain't here to play school Jones.
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm going with the Guardians for the upset here.
I'm going to go with the DC Defenders because I'm all on Overreaction Monday, and everything about the XFL so far has been about how awesome the DC Defenders have been.
All right.
So, yes.
Mike, nice overreaction. I love it.
There you go. That's how you do it.
All right.
I do like as I'm looking at all these over-unders for the week, by the way, they all look like they've come down a couple points from last week, which is an interesting thing to note.
A couple or 10 maybe?
Yeah. Well, no, I think like most of them last week were like 54.
Yeah, that's not really that high.
And so now they're all at like 47, 46.
Yeah, that's probably more in line actually.
Yeah. So this one's 47.5. I'm going to go DC. All right. And again, because they're at home again, I like the energy that they had at home. We'll see how the Guardians perform in front of a crowd.
Hold on a second here. I'm going to write these down. So we've got, okay. So NY at DC. Greg's taking to New York, and Zach and Mike are taking DC, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Up next,
you have the Tampa Bay Vipers, Mike's Tampa Bay Vipers, at the Seattle Dragons in probably the worst uniform matchup in league history.
Oh, it's going to be awful.
It might be the worst matchup in professional football history.
The Vipers are 2.5-point favorites on the road again.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. I don't know about this.
And again, the Vipers only scored 3 points in the first game, and they're playing Seattle, who again was on the road, but scored 19 points against the best team in the league, maybe. So
I'm taking the Seattle Dragons here, I guess it's an upset, although I don't really think it is, because first off, they're playing in Seattle, which those people will follow anything. I mean, my God, they follow that stupid soccer team like it actually means something, so they're going to follow this too. So I think the Seattle with the home field, where are they playing this at? They're playing this at the Seahawks Stadium? Or at the was it Seattle Sounders?
I think they are. I think they're playing.
No, the Sounders play at the Seahawks Stadium.
Oh, that's right. They do, don't they? Well, then, all right. So I'm taking Seattle because they're going to get like 80,000 people in there for reasons passing comprehension, but they will. And I think the Seattle Dragons win this one.
I'm going to say Seattle, too, because I watched that Tampa Bay game, and woof, that team is bad. Mark Trestman, not a good coach.
No, I could have told you that.
Oh, so Trestman was another storyline that came out because they're putting the cameras in the locker room at halftime for the broadcast, and so you could hear his halftime rah to the team, and it's just like, okay, I understand why the Bears were not very good for you. So.
All right, Zach, make it the trifecta here so Tampa Bay can win their first game.
Oh, boy. I think I still got to go Seattle.
Right,
All
Seattle.
right. That's it. Congratulations, Tampa Bay Vipers, for your win.
Yep. We're all on Seattle.
Yeah, that's never good. Okay.
Over under in that game is 46. So if both teams score the same amount of points they did in week one, that will be a huge under.
Yeah.
So,
okay. On to Sunday.
Sunday, the early game is on the West Coast. 3 p.m. Eastern Sunday, ABC. The Tampa Bay Seattle game's on Fox, by the way. The Dallas Renegades at the LA Wildcats. Both teams looking for their first win. The Renegades are 4-point favorites on the road in LA. How dare you?
I've got to say that I got to go with the Renegades because given the overreaction seen out of the Wildcats front office, this team is screwed.
I'm with Mike. I'm taking the Dallas Renegades over LA Disarray here.
I mean, yeah, wow. The Renegades lost their first game too, but at least they didn't fire their defensive coordinator.
Real quick, guys. Oh, does Winston Moss last the season as LA's coach?
Yes, he's removing people who challenge him.
I will say yes because the LA Wildcats will go 9-1.
Well, not only that, but Winston Moss, before he will be fired, will be like in the top floor of the LA Wildcats building, barricaded in with guns and stuff going, you're not taking me out. So yeah, Mike's right. He will take on all champs. Zach, who you liking this one? Mike and I are going with the Renegades. Who are you taking?
Oh, I gotta go with my hometown Wildcats.
All right.
You know what? I can respect that.
Gotta get their first win.
And finally, the game of the day.
Mike wasn't on his hometown.
Look, I watched them play, man. They suck.
And yet you still went out and bought merch. Mike.
I bought a sweatshirt.
I have Browns merch. I mean, come on. It's just the way things go.
Yeah, but you don't have a choice in that one.
Oh, sure I do. I'm a Green Bay Packers shareholder. I've got all the choices I need. I still do it. I did. Speaking of the Browns, though, I bought I love the Elf logo, and I found a perfect New Era hat with the Browns Elf logo, and I've been looking at it forever at Christmas time. But anyway, go ahead. The game of the day right here, St. Louis, Houston.
St. Louis Battlehawks, Houston Roughnecks, Battle of Undefeateds. Winner will be in first place in the Western Conference there. Again, the Battlehawks being severely underestimated. 7-point favorites are the Houston Roughnecks.
Well, first off, I'm going to pick my Houston broke-ass Walmart Oilers because they're my team, according to the Twitter thing that would cycle through 8 teams, and you clicked on it, and the one that popped up, that's the one you rooted for. I thought, I hope I get Houston, and then I did. And so there you go.
If you don't have a hometown team in the XFL, I can't think of a better way to select your team.
Yep, there it was. And I did. It was funny because McCarthy had tweeted, he was a huge fan of the Seattle Dragons. So something along the lines of like, I've been a fan of these guys forever, and I'm like lifelong Houston Roughnecks fan here. And then I clicked that thing, and the Roughnecks came up. I thought, well, there you go, that settles it.
I have been a Seattle Dragons fan since day one.
He goes, I have to block you now because we're rivals, obviously, being in the West,
I mean, no, I mean, there you go. I mean, look, the league may have just started, but fuck you. We have a blood rivalry now.
We were once friends, no more. Anyway, I'm going with my Houston Roughnecks, the broke-ass Oilers, for sure. Best team in the league.
I'm going to go with Houston as well. They look pretty good.
Mike?
Houston looked pretty good, yeah.
All right, congratulations, St. Louis. You're going to be in first place.
Here's an interesting fact, too, from the Action Network. XFL's Week 1 games generated 20 times the betting handle as the first two AAF games did the year before.
You see, I think the difference, and I like the AAF too. I enjoyed it, but I think the difference here is the XFL isn't trying to be basically minor league NFL. They want to be their own entity, where the AAF always had that feel of we're going to be a developmental league. And I think that people would just have a little bit tougher time getting on board with that.
I honestly, I think it is. I think it's what Zach said earlier, which is that like, even though the first XFL was a colossal failure, like it was one of those things that it has nostalgia cachet.
Yeah.
And it has that WWE tie-in. Even people who aren't wrestling fans know it, and it's something that they recognize, and they're willing to be like, hey, that's fun. So, like, I think that is what it has going for it.
Yeah, the AAF had it was a complete unknown. Yeah,
it was a complete, like, I think that the AAF could have garnered a degree of brand loyalty had it stuck around long enough, but it didn't. And starting out of the gate, nobody really knew what to expect. So, but whereas the XFL, even though, by all intents and purposes, this is a completely different league than the first XFL, it still had that brand. It still had that association with Vince McMahon being a bombastic asshole. And so people were more willing to, give it a try, I think.
Yeah, agreed. Wow. You know what, Mike? Houston Roughnecks hoodies are sold out already.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. People getting on board, man. All the way to the XFL championship, baby. All right. Anyway, anything else, guys? We should probably wrap it up. We're getting close to an hour and a half here. So.
I mean, I can't think of anything better than an hour and a half of XFL.
But it was good XFL. I mean, I thought we'd be making fun of it the whole time, but really it kind of did that for us.
We mostly made fun of LA.
Yeah. That's going to be fun to watch, I think, because like you said, this guy.
The ballad of the LA Wildcats.
the ballad of Winston Moss.
Hey, by the way, I will say, I thought the Wildcats uniforms looked better on the field than in the games.
I will say this. Yes, they looked nice. I'm still not a fan of the side panels, but
no.
Yeah.
Side panels, though, it's not a bad look, I think. Maybe. I don't know. Wow, you know what? XFL Roughnecks footballs also sold out, authentic game balls.
Yeah, that was another thing. What did you guys think of each team having their own unique game ball?
It didn't look as ridiculous as I thought it would. Mm-hmm. I thought it looked okay. Wow, this stuff's expensive.
Yeah, it's like $100 per ball.
To get a custom Roughnecks authentic game jersey, $275. Yeah, forget that. All right, so we're going to wrap it up, folks. As always, follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports. Subscribe via Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spreaker, YouTube, and anywhere fine podcasting is sold. We'll see you next week, and go Roughnecks.
Go Vipers.
Go Wildcats.
Extreme!